Good morning. So I'm just loading my presentation and I think that we can start directly. So hello everyone. Today I will be sharing with you a case study of the company which name is RetailMax. Of course, the name of the company is changed, but all of the story is true, and we'll go through all of it. I think also that one part of the story is a little bit similar to what we've just seen by Gregor. It also will use like all the statistics of Power BI reports gathered through Power BI tenant. Okay, so let's go. First, let's go over a short agenda. So I will start with a brief introduction of myself, and later we'll jump directly to the case study. In the case study, firstly, I will share with you some background of the company in which the story is happening, and later we'll move into the assessment part. The crucial part of this assessment will also be like the Power BI monitoring and the knowledge that you can gather through the observation of the behavior of the users of your Power BI platform. Later, we'll go to the conclusion of this assessment. We'll see how the quick wins were manifested. And we also see how can you calculate the return on investment of your Power BI cleanup of your Power BI correct governance and administration. I will show you also the long-term vision of the company based on the data gathered through Power BI monitoring. And I believe that maybe we'll have a few minutes also for the Q&A session. Okay, so let's go. A few words about myself. So my name is Michał Dębski. You can see some funny characters in my name and surname. This is the Polish alphabet, and I'm Polish as well. So this is the reason why you can see those funny characters. I'm one of the founders of Astral Forest, like the consultancy boutique. We are specialized in the end-to-end delivery of the BI and data programs. So I mean that we can design all the data infrastructure on Azure. We can design and implement also the data architecture based on the metadata-driven ETL framework. Later, we are passing to Power BI, doing all the analysis together with the business representatives. And we do not stop here. We take care of the governance and the higher adoption, meaning the proper usage of Power BI solution. So I have more than 12 years experience in the domain of data and BI. Recently, I was much into Azure migrations and also into the design and execution of BI and data strategies. I'm working mainly with Azure, with Power BI as well, in the enterprises of the different scale. My own enterprise, like a few years ago, there was only 3 of us. Right now, we are close to 30. But also I was engaged in the huge corporations like PMI or Procter & Gamble, Accor Hotels, and so on. I spent a few years of my life in Paris, and I work also across almost all Europe, also a little bit with the United States and Gulf countries as well. Okay, so let's go directly to the case study. Right now, I will share with you a little bit about the company story. So the RetailMax. What the RetailMax does is retail. They are simply selling all the electronics like the smartphones, computers, headsets, tablets, batteries, but also the books, media, manga, different tickets, like the entertainment products, and lifestyle products that you can buy there. For example, these fancy things that you can buy for your room to make it prettier, or the telescope if you like to see the sky and the stars. So this is like this company which is selling like this retail products, but for FMCG, food, or fashion. The company itself, it was created like 6 years ago as the merger of the 2 different distinct companies. And this merger activities can be seen even right now in the company that exists today. So first of all, this holding, the company decided to keep separately the 2 distinct brands. And you can see that they have 2 distinct brick and mortar stores. Additionally, they will have also like the 2 different online stores. And within one of these online stores, they will have a marketplace as well. They have close to 500 stores across Europe, and also till today they have two different ERP systems. One of them is the modern Microsoft Dynamics inherited after one of the companies, and the other one is the old ERP system, which was called Progenov. They will have also two different WMS or warehouse management systems. They will have also two distinct online stores infrastructures, which are both based on premise, and they are ready to be migrated to Azure, and the infrastructure of the two different stores will be shared. And they have also two different on-premise BI concepts. So this dichotomy is very important from the BI perspective, because still we have a little bit different habits of the different users, different systems, and also more work to be done, because we are using the same resources for the two different solutions. Okay, so this is like the general information about the company, and let's take a closer look right now on the setup of the infrastructure, the data BI infrastructure within the company. So first of all, on the screen you can see like the high-level design of the infrastructure, which is on Azure. This is the newest one. This is the newest BI solution. It was created after the merger, so it's a pretty recent one. And you can see here that this is the classic approach. We have some source data. There is this Azure Data Factory, which is this data integrator and orchestrator. Later we have the data lake, and from the data lake, the data will go to Synapse dedicated SQL pool. From Synapse dedicated pool, some of the data will go directly to Power BI, and some of the data goes to Azure Analysis Services. So this is one of these free BI solutions, the only one which exists on cloud. The two other ones are on-premise based. So the first one will be based around Microsoft technology stack. So you will have the SQL Server reporting services, SQL Server integration services, and SQL Server, to put it shortly. And the user can just log into the browser, go to the SQL Server reporting services page, and navigate through different reports. You can subscribe to some of them and receive them as the attachment to the email. The other solution is based on the MicroStrategy platform and on Oracle technology of Exadata. Similarly, a user can just go to the dedicated portal, web page, and can see some reports based on MicroStrategy technology, and also can build some subscriptions. Okay, so as you can see, we have different approaches to the central BI in this company. So right now, the most important question is how all of it is run within the same company. So a few key information. The most important one is there is no chief data officer within the company. There is no chief data officer, even if the size is pretty big. So I think it's one of the last companies without a CDO of this size. And although there is like this guy, chief information officer, he's not directly responsible for the data BI department. So what does it mean? It means that the voice of the data, the voice of the BI department is not directly heard by the board. The other thing is that there was very significant rotation at the position of head of BI in the last few years. Basically, in the last 6 years, there were like 6 different people at this position. Once again, what does it mean? What is the impact? Basically, a person, a director is coming, just onboarding, trying to plan the vision, the strategy, and leaving the company. So the company is like, say, let's put it frankly, self-run for the last few years without any clear vision or any clear strategy to be executed. Another important thing that we have the central BI data department for the whole holding, which is good. But the bad news is that this department is heavily understaffed. This is the direct result of the absence of the head of BI and the absence of the chief data officer in the company. So we have this department which is heavily understaffed. And as the reason of this understaffing, many different departments like pricing, finance, supply chain, logistics, and so on, the departments are hiring their own data analysts to support their business needs. So as you can see already, we will have some kind of huge shadow BI, shadow data, and also like the heavy self-service independent of the central BI data department ongoing. Another factor is that there is no direct participation of the different departments to the cost of BI data department. And this situation has like the two very important impacts. The first of one is that there is complete lack of awareness of how much does it take to build a data product. What is needed? What is the life cycle of the delivery of the data products? Like data product can be a repo, data product can be a data warehouse, data product can be a data mart. So there is lack of this knowledge. And the second thing is there is lack of priorities, because no one is contributing directly to the BI data department, but everyone has the needs. And everyone is going to the BI data department asking for things to be done. And the people who get the stuff done from the BI data department are the people who are the most persistent, the most vocal, and the most irritating as well, and not the people who actually drive the value for the company. Okay. Another thing is that there was no documentation basically of this BI data department, or the documentation was really rudimentary. So as you can see, the situation is pretty dire, but we have also like the light at the end of the tunnel, because Claire is joining the department of BI and data with Retail Max company as the newly appointed head of data and BI. So let's see right now what kind of the challenges does she face. So first of all, she needs to harness the chaos of the BI and data. She needs to understand how does it work like. Do we need all of the free BI data platforms, or maybe we can, put them together and migrate one from another? This is to be discovered. She doesn't even know what kind of the data products, which reports are the crucial for the company. We have many different reports built by many different people. Which one are important? Which one are used, and by whom? And what happens if we just, for example, decide to archive some of them? So she must discover how to handle also all the priorities, how to execute this roadmap, how to build this roadmap. During her onboarding sessions, she had an onboarding session with the executive committee of the company. And the executive committee put it very clearly that the cost of running of the BI department and paying for Azure and for the support of MicroStrategy and Oracle are really high. And Claire, she should do something about it. At the same time, during her onboarding sessions, he collected the feedback from her peers, like the other directors of the different departments. And all of them were complaining about poor data accuracy and poor data accessibility. As the example, everyone is coming after the weekend, Monday morning, logging into the BI platform and struggling to get the data because we have the bottleneck. All the people connecting at the same time, trying to download the data from Azure Analysis Services or signups, impossible. So at the beginning, she starts like with two opposing, diverging missions: how to improve the data accessibility and how to cut the costs. This is important thing to notice. And most important one, how to change the culture, to make the Retail Max like this data-driven company. The most important and the most time-consuming task. So how does she plan to do it? So the first thing is the assessments of the current setup of the BI data landscape. And here also in this story, my role starts because I'm a friend of Claire. She texts me over WhatsApp. And she asked me to join her into his mission and to prepare the assessment of the current setup. So we are starting with the assessment. Once the assessment is done, next thing to be executed are the quick wins. We need to identify the quick wins and deliver very quickly the value to the stakeholders, to the executive team. Because once the quick wins are delivered, we gain the trust of the exec team. If we gain the trust, we can propose the roadmap of the huge changes, the roadmap of the all BI data-driven strategy. And if we show them, we also need to ask for the most important thing, the budget for the execution of this roadmap. So the trust and later the negotiations. So let's start with the assessment plan. So as you can see on the slide, the assessment is divided into 6 sub-assessments, let's say. And the 7th part is like the summary with all the risk, all the quick wins and recommendation noted, and also the next steps. This will be used also to develop the BI and data strategy in the long run. But first of all, coming to the assessment, the first part, we must assess Azure as the data platform, the setup of the networks, the roles, the responsibilities, the disaster recovery, and so on. The other part is like this on-premise analysis, so MicroStrategy and Microsoft SQL Server parts. So we must discover how those components are used, by whom, what is the impact to the business, what is the cost of the running those 2 different solutions, and the most fundamental question we must ask about the future. Should we migrate one of them, for example, to Azure or not? And if what? And if we should, in which also, in which setup? Okay, the third one is Azure, let's say like ETL and data warehouse part. So we must analyze how ETL is set up. Do we follow any kind of the best practices? Do we have like the metadata driven ETL or not? How our data warehouse or lakehouse is set up? Do we follow the medallion architecture or maybe different one? Or do we follow like the Kimball and Immon best practices or not? What is the performance? What are the costs of all it? What is the security? Everything must be analyzed and written down and also adequately evaluated, and some next steps should be proposed in here. The fourth one is Azure Analysis Services. And here I can just tell you one thing, Azure Analysis Services in this case was really huge. It was the highest possible deal, running 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Huge cost, huge manually and annually cost. So it was also one of the potential quick wins, the Azure Analysis Services. But within the assessment, you of course include the cost, but also the quality of the data model itself, way of usage, the performance. And so do we follow like the star schema, or maybe we have like, different tables put haphazardly over there. And the 5th point, of course, Power BI service and governance assessment. Who is using our solution? How do we set? What is the setup of the workspaces, the accesses policy? What is the quality of our solution, the quality of the reports, the quality of the semantic models, and so on. And I will just we'll talk about it in the next few slides. And the last part of the assessment, so this process and way of working. This one also is very important, because most of the problems, the technical problems that you can find in any kind of the other aspect, like Azure or ETL setup or data warehouse setup or Power BI or analysis services, most of the problems that you will find over there, you can trace the root to the poor processes and way of working, to the lack of the proper decision-taking process, or the shortcuts on enforcing the quick wins over the long-term strategical thinking and coherence of the data. So this is also the crucial part, because even if we can address some points or some negligences, the technical one very quickly, this one, all the process and way of working will require like the huge change management effort to change it. Okay, so let's go to the Power BI assessment. So the first thing is, you must know what kind of Power BI assessment is needed, because depending, for example, on the scale of Power BI usage, you will do a different Power BI assessment. Imagine just this, that you have like a dozen of semantic models, few dozen of users, and like say 20 or 30 different reports. Cool. You can just analyze report by report. You can check its user statistics, and you can check the Power Query, the DAX measures, the quality of the visuals, and so on within the limited time, and you can deliver the results of the assessment. On the other hand, you must use a different approach if you have thousands of reports and thousands of users. If you are in this situation, you cannot simply analyze all of them. You must switch a little bit the model behind your assessment. Similar thing, what kind of Power BI licenses does your organization use? Because if you have these embedded capacities, also you must pay attention during your assessment to those, to their performance, efficiency, how they are used, by whom, do we have any kind of the bottlenecks in them, etc. Of course, what kind of the development process look like, how the team is set up, how does cooperation with the business look like, what is the quality of the existing solution overall, and two very nice questions I love to ask: how Power BI adoption is measured and how return on investment of Power BI report is evaluated. To be frank, not many companies are able to answer those questions because normally the people don't measure yet Power BI adoption nor the return on investment. Some of them do, but they are extremely rare. How can you do this? Of course, you are delivering the interviews with the principal actors, here Claire engaged like data architect, tech lead, some business users, and so on. And you can also run through Power BI, a service through Power BI tenant to evaluate the answers to all of these questions. But finally, we must answer like very directly the three questions. So how many reports do we have? How many active users do we have? And who are the business owners of the reports? The third one is extremely important because if you want to do anything with any single report, we must know whom to ask, basically. Who is the owner of the report? Because we are delivering a change and something happens and it's not validated, you cannot do so. Or if you have like the three, I can see some question, I believe. No, somebody raised their hand, but I think it was by mistake. But if you have, for example, 3 sales reports and they are looking pretty the same, you cannot just merge them without asking the question, without consulting like the 3 different owners. You must know it, which is not easy to learn who is the owner if you don't have the data, if you don't have like the proper glossary or anything like this. So how do you start to get all of these answers? So you can start through the series of the interviews. You can go to Power BI service and consult the user statistics of any single report to learn by whom the report was used and assign this person as a business owner, like the most frequent user. This is a good starting point. But keep in mind that the history of the data will be limited to only the last 30 days. Okay, so you can do this, all of this manually, but imagine that you have like 6,000 reports. And for every single report, you will need only 10 minutes to learn all of this. So you'll still need like to have 1,000 hours or 125 days to collect all of this data. And I can guarantee you one thing, no sane person will ever accept Power BI assessment that will take 125 days just to collect the data. So at this point, it's pretty clear that this kind of job cannot be done manually. It's obligatory, it's necessary to do it in the automatic way. So how do we do it? How do we do this? So in order to do this, we start analyzing Power BI data in Power BI. So first of all, we need to collect the user statistics of the data. Once we collect the statistics and we put them into the database, we start to have the history of the usage of every single report that will be a little bit more robust than only last 30 days, which are accessible from Microsoft tenant. We'll have the complete vision of the actual report consumption, so we'll know which reports are the most important ones and which are not used at all. We'll also know who are the most frequently, who are the most report using users, and who are the users who have the license of Power BI, but they don't use it at all. We'll have also the list of the unused reports, and also we'll be able to assign to every single report in the automatic way the business owner. So we can start the discussion about the future of some of the reports. So how all of this is constructed is pretty simple. All we need to do, we need to connect to Power BI REST API to get the data about the user's activity and also to get the metadata about the objects in Power BI tenant. And also from Graph API, we can have the data about the licenses and also about the Azure Active Directory groups or Entra groups right now. Later, the orchestration is done through Azure Data Factory, and the small DTL and data warehouse is set up within Azure SQL DB. And this Azure SQL DB, it serves as the data source for the Power BI report about the usage statistics. Okay, so I will share with you just the results of this assessment. So first of all, we discovered that there were like 5,500 reports. And in the last 120 days, 2,200 reports were not used at all. They were just being over there without any purpose. Additionally, 1,600 reports were used less than 3 times in the last 120 days. So once again, I believe some of them were useful, but only maybe for monthly occasions. But some of them, you know, just someone just opened them by hazard because this person can see that there are like 30 different sales reports and it's not sure which one to open. So this is one thing. Another thing that we had more than 1,300 active users with assigned Power BI licenses, but we had also almost 700 non-active users with the licenses. So basically, the company was paying the licenses for those users for free. Additionally, we discovered almost 80 active users without any license. So those are the users who are using the Power BI personal workspaces, and most probably they can be assigned Power BI license to make better use of Power BI environment and to deliver more value for the company. Additionally, we discovered that there were like almost 1,000 issues with the dataset refreshes in the last 120 days. And almost 70% of all the actions of all the users were happening in the private workspaces. What does it mean? It does mean that we have like the dire situation when we have this ungoverned self-service mode, when lots of different random people are producing the reports, putting them in the personal workspaces and sharing the report individually with their colleagues. And what happens if such a person leaves the company? There is a problem, because until recently it wasn't possible to recover a report which was residing in the personal workspace. Now it's possible, but you need to have the admin rights to do so, and you need to consume the time and the resources to retrieve such a report. Okay, so here we have some of the information. The other ones. So the most popular reports in the organization were created in a self-service mode, and they were available on private workspaces. And here I can share with you some details. The best report, the most frequently used report was the report which was actually built by a regional sales manager. So huge kudos to this person, because he constructed exactly what the company needed. All the sales branch were using his report. But once again, it was dangerous because it was at his workspace. This report was later refactored and put in the central repository, and right now it serves the purpose like in the coherent and stable way to all the company. We discovered that there was no existing naming convention, because you can have the list of all their workspaces. You can see that there's no pattern, or all the reports, no pattern once again. And of course, multiple same or similar reports. And how can you see it? You have the list of all the reports across all the workspaces in the tenant. You just click to sort them in the alphabetical order, and you can immediately see that you have weekly sales report and the number of the week, weekly sales report, number of the month. So it's pretty easy to decide that those are the reports which are exactly the same, but due to the lack of the coordination and centralization of the BI platform, many different people in the different point of time, they just produce their own version of the same report with the different measures, sometimes of the different KPIs, and the values were not matching, which is another problem as well. So sometimes also there was this lack of separation between semantic model and the Power BI report. So there was redundancy, too many semantic models, because normally you are building one semantic model, and later you can just create a few reports using it. And of course, also we discovered that the access was granted mainly at user and report level. What does it mean? It means that from the administrative point of view, it's extremely time consuming, and you need to spend lots of time in governing in Power BI tenant. Of course, the missing brand book, no dev or test environment, no Power BI administration, and no Power BI champions. But having the information about the actual frequency with which the people are creating their own reports or developing the reports or using the report, you can appoint the new Power BI champions pretty easily, which happens ultimately. Okay, so what kind of the steps can we do in the short run? So first of all, we can just archive the unused reports or the rarely used reports. You need to have the script, the PowerShell script to run through your Power BI tenant and to put all of the reports into archive. I'm saying archive and not deleting, because if ever a situation comes to you that the report actually was used, for example, in the particular season of the year, you can always roll back to this report and give it back to the user if it happens on the, for example, yearly basis, like for the back to school activity or Thanksgiving Day or anything else. So this is one thing. We optimize also the usage of Power BI licenses. So simply let's unassign the licenses from the people who are not using Power BI and assign the licenses to the people who are using Power BI, but they do not have the license. We also, in the short run, limited the risk on the Power BI tenant level, modified the options. We used the data from Power BI to develop strategy for the next 12 and 24 months using Power BI champions. This is one important thing, because through the user statistics, we knew exactly which reports are the most important for the company, because either they were used very widely by the company, or they were used by the VIPs. By the VIPs in the company, so some kind of the board, etc. So knowing the reports, we know the underlying data layer. Knowing the underlying data layer, we know the ETL jobs. Knowing the ETL jobs, we know the data sources. So eventually, this knowledge can serve you to build like the perfect refactor strategy of all your BI and data platform, because you concentrate your attention exactly where it does bring the most of the value. We roll out also the setup of the workspace plan, standard template to be used of Power BI report, a JSON team, and also we force the identification of the business owners. So this is the short run, right? Right now, I will share with you a few ideas to clean up, to calculate the return on investment. And this is once again the real list. Claire went to the board, to the exec committee with this list, showing this is how much value my activities brought. And right now, let's discuss the next steps, the roadmap. So the first thing is the optimization of the license usage. So this optimization of the license usage helped the company to save 65k euros annually. How is it calculated? 12 months multiplied by the number of the users who are not using Power BI actively, but they have license, minus the number of the users who don't have the license, but they are using Power BI, multiplied by the cost of Power BI license. And that's all. Here we have the distinction between the Power BI Pro users and Power BI Premium per user. So this is the first item. The second one is the easier access to the information to the reports. And here, for the data, we knew that we had like 733 weekly active users. And with Claire, we estimated that through the cleanup and through the cleanup and reorganization of the Power BI setup, we can save an average user 5 minutes per week of the time looking for the access to the information, and we multiply this by 52 weeks. So it amounts to 142 days annually. The third item is the reduction of the number of the tickets and simpler administration. So once again, from Jira, we knew that the last 12 months we had like 748 tickets in Jira. So we estimated that the proper management of Power BI through the proper setup of all of it will cut the number of the tickets by half. And from Jira, we knew as well that the average time spent on the resolving Power BI ticket is 2 hours. So it gives us the number of 94 days saved annually. And the last but not least, this is the reduction of the number of the queries on the Synapse dedicated pool, because we had so many different data sets that were querying, like the data sets, I mean semantic models that were calling Synapse, and we just put them into the archival because we merged some of them. We compared the data before this archival activity and after, and we discovered that the difference in the elapsed time on the Synapse is like 364 minutes. So once again, something that helps us to better use the resources that we have. Okay, so here you have the list of the points that you can calculate the return on investment and what's therefore clear. So first of all, we gain the trust of the exec team. Second, we have the budget for the execution of the long-term vision. We have also the tool to negotiate with the business users and sponsors the Power BI monitoring, and we can increase the adoption of Power BI within the time. Okay, so what are the steps in the long term? So first of all, we need to set up the data culture and drive of the change management. And how did it happen? We invited one of the departments, the most tech-savvy department, supply chain department, to run the project, the BI project with us together, to pay for it as well, to have the consciousness of the board budget involved for the BI activities. And as the first item on the list, we delivered like the data mart for them. We picked up carefully this supply chain department because they were very open to it. They knew the data and the business processes extremely well. And we needed someone like this as the first step to later entail all the other departments. So this is why we picked up this one, because we wanted to centralize a little bit more and also to increase the awareness of the how do you work in BI and how much does it take to build like the scalable, good data solution. We started the refactor of the crucial reports, like the one that I mentioned you, the report that was done by the best report, the most frequently used report that was built by the sales director, one of the regional sales directors. We started to monitor the orphaned or rarely used reports. So for example, there is a policy right now, if the report in a personal workspace is not used for more than 4 months, it's archived. This is like the cleanup policy, and it helps us to avoid having too many different reports. Of course, the all reorganization of the workspaces, the permissions. Right now, there is a process being put in place that the permissions and adherence to the correct Azure Active Directory groups happens during the onboarding of a person. We created also the community on the SharePoint with the usage reports so everyone can see the department and what kind of reports are used and by whom, and ask the question to the peers. Power BI service and tenant. Also, there is this proactive administration right now because Microsoft is changing the setup of Power BI, is adding the new Power BI settings, and they are enabled by the definition by default. So we must know if the new option comes and if it's enabled or not. And most frequently, we are just going there to disable this option and to reconsider its proper usage in the future. And also, we have like this constant assignment of the business owners, the engagement of the Power BI champions. It's getting better and better. I heard someone that I don't know if someone wants to ask a question or it was the accident. Okay. Maybe it was the accident. So right now, okay, we have all these results. We have already some of the actions, and we did some actions from the Power BI perspective, but also we have the actions to be executed from the broader view. So first of all, we are planning also on the Azure Analysis Services breakup, the complete refactor of the data warehouse, implementation of the new ETL framework, the migration of the on-premise assets, and so on. So as you can see, lots of different things happening. We need to also put in place proactive change management process. So all the team within the organization of Retail Max starts to work more on the projects and not on the tickets. Okay, so I think it's all from myself today. You can add me on LinkedIn if you want to stay in touch. You can ask me some questions right now as well. And if you are interested about Power BI solution, there are two versions. I shared the links over there. One of them is paid, and you can go to Marketplace, Microsoft Marketplace, to get it. And the other one is free of charge. It's a little bit more limited, and you can have it from GitHub. And the link is also on the screen. I will share it with you also in the chat. So just let me know if you have any questions. You can also reach out to me afterwards and just, exchange some information if you want. Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot also for the organizers for this nice opportunity for me to share my experience. And I wish you a wonderful weekend.